All right, hi everyone. Welcome to our third of 4 Regional ACE webinars for this academic year and recruiting season. Cannot believe it's March 6th already. Graduations are going to be here before we know it. Today's webinar, titled Delivering Career Development to a Diverse Student Population, will be presented by Michael, Ryan, and Kelly from Hawaii Pacific University. And it'll be all about programming that supports every student's college to career transition. I'm Ryan Pratt, the VP of Marketing and Research at GradLeaders. And for those of you who aren't aware, GradLeaders is a relatively new brand started in 2015 that was the result of a merger between two companies, MBA Focus and CSO Research, that had been in the industry for 30 plus years. Over those 30 years, we've partnered with thousands of career centers to help connect millions of students to their dream jobs. Helping connect students and employers is really what we do. We're more than just a career services and student recruitment software provider. We truly think of ourselves as partners with schools and employers and an extension of their office with this shared goal. We love sharing best practices and creating opportunities for you all to learn from each other, and that's why we're really excited to be working with the Regional ACEs again this year on this webinar series. A quick reminder before we kick this thing off, everyone has been automatically muted on entry, but if you have questions at any time throughout the webinar, feel free to type them into the chat window within WebEx, and please send your questions to all panelists so that all of us can see them. I know it's a little confusing. There is a Q&A button as well, but please use the chat so that both the team at Hawaii Pacific University and Kelly, our moderator today, can see all the questions. So with that, I'm going to hand this off to the team in Hawaii, and I'd like to introduce Kelly from MPACE to introduce them.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Hi, everybody. My name is Kelly Dries. I'm the Executive Director for the Office of Career and Professional Development at the University of Redlands. And I also have the privilege of serving on the Mountain Pacific Association of Colleges and Employers as the MPACE Director for Education and Professional Development. And I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to introduce our 3 presenters this morning, Michael Van Leer, Ryan Tinloy, and Kelly Primacio from Hawaii Pacific University. And I'll give a little bit of background from each of them before I pass it off. So Michael is the Director of Career Development at HBU and is a higher education professional with 6 years of experience as a Career Center Director. During his 18 years in higher education, Mike has done it all. He's had the opportunity to teach first-year students, serve as an academic dean, a campus vice president, and campus president. Ryan is a senior career advisor at HPU who has 6 years of experience within higher education, specifically career development programming. Prior to entering higher education, Ryan spent 12 years working in the public sector on direct counseling services and program and community development projects. And last, Kelly is a career development coordinator at Hawaii Pacific University. And prior to beginning her career at HPU, Kelly worked as a zipline tour guide for 2 years on the North Shore of Oahu and spent 2 years before that as a professional healthcare aide. Today, she serves as the coordinator for the Career Development Center and is actively involved in developing innovative and adaptive career programming. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our presenters to get us started and hear more about what they're doing at Hawaii Pacific University.
Good morning, everybody. I'm not going to give my full name. I'm Mike. So you heard me introduce. So I am the director of the department. I'll let the rest kind of say their names so that you are familiar with our voices.
Aloha, good morning, you guys. I'm Kelly.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Ryan.
And as was mentioned by Ryan when he introduced us earlier, we are doing a topic on delivering career development to a diverse student population. So let's talk a little bit about maybe why that's our presentation topic. We're going to begin, though, first by just covering a few of the key areas of this presentation. First is kind of who we are, some of the key challenges that we face in a very diverse student situation or environment here at HPU, identifying some of the student needs, turning challenges into opportunities, looking ahead at some of the things that we plan to be doing, and there will be a Pauhana Q&A at the end.
Hey, Mike, sorry to interrupt you. We cannot see your screen. Are you sharing yet?
Thought I was. Let me try that again. Hang on a second. I bet this works. Hang on just a second.
There it comes.
Yay. Okay, so I'll go back to that slide that really just was kind of identifying what our presentation was about. So again, these are the key areas, the topics that we're going to cover. And now we're at who we are. So at Hawaii Pacific University, we're a small, liberal arts-based university, private university here in Hawaii, 3,500 students. But that small population comes from 50 U.S. states and over 30 countries. We have 2 campuses. We're talking to you from our downtown Honolulu campus, and we also have an urban campus just over the Ko'olau Range behind us. That is our Hawaii Loa campus, where we have 2 colleges located. Very different environments. The Hawaii Loa campus is about as beautiful as it gets when you think about Hawaii. We also have classes that are taught online, and we teach classes at 5 of the military bases here on the island of Oahu. We offer over 60 majors, from associates to doctorate degrees, and we are a 1 centralized career center with 3 full-time staff, who you are hearing from today, along with 2 student workers that support us.
So let's talk about some of the key challenges that we experienced here at Hawaii Pacific University. Now, like many of you, you've also experienced some decreasing or declining enrollment. We were in the same situation as well. Take a look at those numbers there in terms of declining student enrollment. In 2011, we had approximately over 10,000 active students enrolled in our programs. However, over approximately an 8-year time frame, that number dropped to 3,500 students. Now, some of it can be explained through external challenges, financial challenges, competition from other universities. But as a career center, we were faced with the task of trying to balance low student engagement or low student turnout, as you can see in this picture here, along with the employers. So how do we balance the needs of the employers as well as trying to balance the needs of a student? And that picture there shows you a good a good visual of what we were experiencing.
So key challenges continued, folks. In addition to what Ryan's pointed out and what is central to our department, how our department operates, is the hyperdiversity, really, of our student population. The cultural diversity of our student body really contributes to a vibrant learning environment, which is awesome. However, when you consider, as Mike pointed out, that we've got students from all 50 states, over 30 countries, and in combination with the military bases that we serve, sometimes identifying students' needs can be tricky. Another challenge on the employer engagement side is responding to unrealistic employer expectations. So what I mean by that is that employers are approaching university recruitment from an antiquated standpoint. Career fairs, placement, services are just some of the terms associated with this outdated model of seeking talent. So our hyperdiversity does not necessarily lend itself to meet the needs of our employer constituents. And we often find ourselves in a paradox of trying to balance their expectations with opposing student needs and wants. Much of higher education has shifted to an inclusive and global focus, and many of our students do not intend on remaining in Hawaii after graduation. Sustaining employer partnerships, therefore, on a local level has had to look a little different. And then finally, because we are an optional resource center, it doesn't always feel like we're making a wide impact across campus, and that can be very frustrating. So we find ourselves constantly having to sort of quote-unquote push or market what we have to offer, essentially trying to sell our value. So quick question, and again, you guys don't have to start banging away at the keyboard on this one, but it's really just food for thought, something to consider that we will circle back to at the end. Have you folks experienced similar challenges?
Okay, so when Kelly kind of gave a list of all of the key challenges that we've really identified, you know, the first step in that is how do you figure out for sure what these challenges are? And one of the things that we dedicate time to at the end of the spring term, right around the mid-May to early June timeframe, is to do an annual SWOT and strategic planning process so that what we're doing is quickly responding to what may have occurred over the last year and being able to develop initiatives and programming that is targeting the needs of our students. And so we spend considerable time doing that, and it really has turned out some good programming for us so that when we introduce it the next year, we're not working from a model that's maybe 2 or 3 years old. A real primary objective of everything that we do in both the SWOT and the strategic planning process is to make sure that we're effective in delivering career development that is helping our students with that college to career transition. That is always our focus point, and if we operate from that, we can then develop the most effective programming and resources for our students. So how do we uncover those needs? Talked a little bit about how we respond and what we do in developing programming to meet those needs, but you've really got to have some real clear data that helps you know exactly what are those needs of the students. And we've really taken two kind of approaches to it. We do an annual survey. We just finished the one that we have for this academic year, kind of early January. It started in December of 2018. We had 171 students respond to it and let us know these are the needs that are most important to us. So we would give them a list of things to kind of select from that are generally part of our programming, and of course there was the opportunity to identify other needs as well. But then that helps us in the midpoint of the year to make sure that as we move into the spring term, that we're adapting even in mid-stride, meaning like in the middle of an academic year. What we also do is spend time doing focus groups. So we will meet with our registered student organizations, especially the Student Government Association. Those are two very kind of targeted groups for us to get feedback that gets a little bit more narrative behind what those needs are that you might find in a survey. A survey doesn't always give you the full picture, and when we do these focus groups, we find that meeting with SGA and our Campus Activities Board and so forth, it really helps us to get a better visual of exactly what students are saying is important to them. And so if we were to kind of talk about those needs, going back to them, what are they? Well, the survey that we did in 2018, or in December 2018, we presented a list of items of resources and services that are provided from our department. We asked students to rank them on being least favorable, a 1, to most favorable being a 5. So what we did was we are presenting to you here the top 5 items based on that scale of 4 to 5. So job search assistance had the highest rating of responses from students that fell into that 4 or 5 favorable rating. Almost 74% of the students said that job search assistance is important to them. But we need to make sure you all understand, we're not talking about job search assistance after graduation. That's really the college to career step. This is about our students needing jobs right now while they're at HBU. I'm sure you folks can imagine living out here in the middle of the Pacific that the cost of living is substantially more. And that is a bit of a sticker shock for a lot of students that come from areas where the cost of living is much more affordable. And they realize, oh, I'm going to need a little bit extra cash to get by through this semester. And so we are very, very responsive to that need. And that comes in the way of helping students find part-time opportunities both on and off campus. Career advising was the second most important. And we're going to talk a little bit about what does that really mean, but you know, helping students through that decision-making process about what they're going to do in their future careers is a key part of what we need to deliver. We also need to focus on making sure that we're offering internships for our students. 2/3 of them rated this very high, along with 2/3 of them saying they really value the employer information sessions. These are one-off sessions, again, not career fairs, but individual employers coming on campus and presenting about their organization. And then lastly, this one isn't an item that was rated in the favorable thing. It was just more or less a question that said to students, would you like to see career development workshops offered in class? Because our students are busy. As I mentioned earlier, they need to be working. A lot of them are student athletes, and of course, most of them are going full time. And so being able to attend all of the events and the offerings that we have isn't always working with their schedules. So nearly 58% of our students said, yes, we would love to see those career development workshops that most career centers all offer being delivered in class.
Now I know what some of you are thinking. We had 10,000 students in 2011, and now in 2019 we have 3,500 students. Most of you will see that as a big barrier challenge. I would probably agree with you. However, we saw this as an opportunity to really retool and reformat our programming. So instead of seeing these as challenges, we saw these as opportunities for growth. How did we achieve that growth? We went back to basics. I know some of you are Lilo and Stitch fans. I'm sure some of you on the other line may have attended our recent MPACE conference. Hawaii is all about ohana. We're all about relationships. So we had the chance to really get back to basics and really find and discover what really drives or motivates us. And in Hawaii, unlike other states, everything is about pili or relationships. We like to consider ourselves a very relationship-driven economy. So how did we achieve that goal? We went back and focused on relationships both with employers as well as with students. So instead of just having an employer that you meet maybe once a year, we tried to build off on this. We wanted to have successful employer relationships that we visit them whenever we can. We tried to do successful site visits. We send them a card during Christmas times and in holidays, and we're trying to go beyond just having this distant professional relationship to have a more personal relationship to the point where they want to come on our campus. They want to build relationships with our students. Another thing we did was we tried to build off existing relationship partnerships that we already have. We have some strong staff relationships with both staff and faculty. So we went back to saying, hey, we did a workshop in your hospitality and tourism management class last year. Is there something else that you may need? Maybe there is a type of service that your students can benefit from. It's trying to leverage these existing partnerships into other more successful endeavors. On the picture of the right, you'll see a little infographic of the taro o kalo plant. That's a staple food here in Hawaii. The reason why I want to mention this is that the taro or kalo plant can grow in some of the most challenging situations. And we're kind of in a challenging situation right now. But despite all these challenges, we're still trying to find ways to grow. At the bottom of the screen, you're going to see a list of different employers that were putting this practice, or philosophy, into work. So Hawaiian Airlines is a good example where we did a successful site visit and campus visit. United Airlines, the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA for short. We had a chance to visit their high-tech scientific facility a summer ago. And also Waikiki Beach Activities, which is a third-party tourist management travel destination company. We also were able to develop successful partnerships with them, and these would not have been achieved if we were not focused on pili or relationships. So how else do we achieve this? Well, we get resourceful, and we try to find the need. Now, I want you folks to keep that in mind. Everything in our presentation here is trying to identify the need. Because we're operating in such a diverse, very fluid and dynamic environment, you really have to try to pinpoint the need. So how did we do that? Remember, like how I mentioned, I don't have 10,000 students that I have to advise every day. I have 3,500 students. So what can I do? I can really add more rigor and programming to those services. I can challenge our students to take ownership of their success. I can try to help create an atmosphere where everyone is dedicated to that goal. A good example is where we kind of retooled and reformatted our mock interview process. I'm sure many of you in career centers have done mock interviews with students, sometimes in a one-on-one format, but what we wanted to do was take that to the next step. So we created a panel mock interview style process where you have three of us, three people in the Career Development Center providing questions and answers and targeted responses to our students. And it's all about trying to create a kaho'oko, which is commitment. We also try to tailor our materials to student needs. So as opposed to just creating a one-size-fits-all approach, we decided to kapale kawa, which means to target. We focus on consolidating and deploying our resources to a designated target group based on whatever their need is. So if a specific group is requesting this specific need, we'll go ahead and deploy resources towards that specific need.
And so, adding on to what Ryan has just shared with you, what we really did ahead of all of that was we abandoned casting the wide net. And what we really mean by that is, these one-size-fits-all, okay, in March you'll offer these workshops, April these, and you're good and go. And maybe you've thrown in a career fair. And hopefully the students bite on that. They come to all those events, and you know what? They don't. And so what we found out is that casting that wide net where you're hoping that if we bring in 45 employers to a career fair, we'll have so many excited students there. But it doesn't work that way for us. With such a small population, you're just not going to get the kind of numbers that you could yield when we had 10,000 students here. You would at least keep the employers happy if you had 100 or 200 students go through the room. But when you have 3,500 students, it's tough to meet the expectations, as Kelly said, of these employers. And so we had to look at how to approach especially employer relationships and events that happen on campus in a different way. And so what we had to learn to do is also to say no. Sometimes employers they want to come on campus, but they're offering opportunities that are part-time jobs that you could do straight out of high school. And so we had to be able to tell an employer that, I don't think this is the right event. You're not looking to bring in somebody who's an aspiring STEM major or someone that's going to go into international relations. They're offering opportunities that would be much better suited for Handshake, our platform, a part-time job, but we don't need to have them on for an information session. And we also said no to the career fairs. So you might have remembered that photo on the left. That was low employer ROI. Our employers would come to these career fairs and end up talking to each other, as you see two of these folks doing, and an elderly gentleman walking through the lobby area of our career fair, and yet there's no students. And we realized we've got to be more strategic about how we engage with employers. We just can't throw that wide net anymore. And so the photo on the right is taken from a recent, about a month ago, Hawaiian Airlines was on campus, and they were very specific about their recruitment needs. They weren't looking for hospitality and tourism majors. They weren't looking to hire for flight attendants and gate agents. They were looking for IT folks. They have a very specific need in that area. And so what we did was we spoke with two professors. They were looking specifically for students that were close to graduating. So we ended up getting two classes combined that had over 20 seniors that were present, along with some other juniors. What you're seeing in this is when the session's over. So, imagine what the room looked like prior to that. We've got the employer presenters there with their backs to the wall, and all of these students there 5 minutes after still engaged with the employers. This is high employer ROI. This is when the employers walk out and feel like they've really gotten value out of the relationship that they have with all of us here at HPU. What we also needed to do is kind of speak with employers. If we're going to do more employer information sessions, we need those employers to try to think about how to present themselves in a more innovative way rather than just get up and kind of go through the mission statement, here's our jobs, here's how to apply. Students these days, they want to know more about it. They want to know their culture. They want to know what it's like to progress through the ranks of their employee workforce. And so we've really identified a couple of employers that we've continued to work with to create more innovative ways for them to engage with our students. Bank of Hawaii has an awesome employer or university recruiter. When he comes on campus, he tells his personal story. He tells about the kind of students that he's followed in their careers at Bank of Hawaii. He talks about what it's like during a summer internship to every Friday have lunch with one of the executives as an intern and how awesome an experience that is. He also makes it really, he's got a good sense of humor. He always tells the students, look, I hire only for PhDs, poor, hungry, and determined. And that gets the students even more excited because they're realizing, hey, I could do this. We've also had the CIA on campus. You folks may be familiar with when they do the Einstein case studies. They actually allow students to work on a case study that mirrors what's been done in the CIA, and it allows the recruiters to really assess the critical thinking skills, the analytical skills of the students as they go through this case study, and then also their communication skills as they share out the experience afterwards. Booz Allen Hamilton does a pitch idea event. This happens every March, and what we do is have a pre-event in the fall, and it's really kind of a Shark Tank type of activity where the students need to pitch this out-of-the-box thinking idea that then turns to Booz Allen and says, if I had this technology, this is how this idea could come to fruition. And so Booz Allen then says, you know, that's the kind of person that we want to work with. We'd like to offer you a summer internship. And it's a great way for Booz Allen to really assess if they're getting the right interns for the kind of opportunities they have available every summer. Then lastly, we've had the diplomat in residence in Southern California visit with our students the past 2 years. And rather than kind of getting up and doing that formal presentation, it's really more of coffee and donuts with the diplomat. And what's really neat about it is it's, again, explaining what's a day in the life of a diplomat like. Talking about the experiences of one of our diplomats in residence who was in Mexico City, and really the intel that she would collect by riding the city bus, going to get her hair cut, having lunch in a restaurant, and being able to dig up the kind of information that is most important to the State Department and relaying that. And you know, it paints a whole different picture than maybe what students pre-thoughts about what it would be like in that field. So what we've also needed to do, considering that we've got these employer relationships that are becoming more personal and robust, we've also got to create experiences for our students that really provide them this foundation beyond just an education that will enable them to successfully move on from their college and into their careers. So we've really put an increased focus on making sure experiential learning opportunities are available to students. You can see the list there of so many of these things available. You know, these have always been available. It's not like they're brand new. We've always offered them, but it's making sure that we're identifying a lot of opportunities that maybe weren't, used as much by students in the past. The photo on the right, the Hawaii Annual Hackathon, the Code Challenge. This is a great opportunity for our computer science and MIS majors to be able to identify their skill sets in front of some industry leaders and being able to show how well they can operate in a hackathon environment. We had some students place 3rd and 5th in this. It was an awesome event. We also had our UN club here at HPU, a lot of political science and international relations majors being able to go to the National Model UN Conference where they can really be able to imagine what it's like to participate in the United Nations. It was such an incredible experience for our students, and these are the kind of things that give them a lot more fodder for their career progression. And when they can put these kind of things on their resumes, it gives a lot. It gives that added value to the HPU experience and education.
Okay, so what's worked best so far? Now, results will vary depending on institution, but this is what worked for us so far. And what we did was we delivered on these micro needs, focused on these small challenges or victories. For example, we decided to do a weekly announcement which promotes specific jobs or internships by major. It's not something fancy. It's just a simple email dissemination that goes out every week. But there's something there for everyone. Somebody from a liberal arts major to a business major or to a computer science major, they can just quickly look what's available, what's hot in their field. Another thing we decided to do was we trying to hold employer information sessions in specific classes. Mike earlier mentioned that we partnered with Hawaiian Airlines because they had a strict hiring timeline. They were looking to bring on computer science and management information systems majors within the next 3 to 5 months, and they were only looking for people who are going to be graduating in the specific fields. So what we did was partner with the faculty in those majors and in those class groups and have the workshop held right in the class. Another area we focused on was providing interviewing preparation workshops for education majors. A secondary education major might not have the same job requirements or interviewing skills as opposed to someone who's an accounting major. There may be different areas of emphasis. So what we did was design an interviewing workshop around that specific need. We also did some leadership and team building exercises for our SGA or Student Government Association. We did some networking preparatory workshops for computer science and MIS students. If, as some of you may know, computer science majors may not be the most socially adept people in a mixer type environment. So what we did was try to put them on equal footing with professionals in their field. So we created a preparatory workshop specifically for them. We also did a resume workshop specifically designed for students. We have students from 30 different countries and 50 states who may be going to work abroad or going back to their home country. The resume or CV skill set is obviously a lot different for someone working domestically as opposed to someone working overseas. Also, we developed a 4-day career development workshop series for our Nursing Student Association. This 4-day workshop consisted of different things from how to create an impactful LinkedIn profile, how to do well in a job interview, and really how to create a high-impact resume. And these were all designed around nursing majors.
So what else works, guys? Earlier, I mentioned that, it can be frustrating being a quote-unquote optional resource center. But if you folks recall the top 5 resources most important to students that Mike shared earlier, career advising rose to the second highest, just after job search assistance. So another way that we've been able to turn a challenge into an opportunity is by letting students drive advising sessions through active listening, confirming what they hope to gain, and by asking questions rather than giving answers. Because we are an optional resource center, we are afforded the luxury of time. And while we may not advise large volumes of students, the ones that we do meet with receive quality advising. We're able to give 100% of our attention and effort, and we get to see and understand students as individuals. So another question, again, food for thought. What are some unique experiences that you folks recommend for students' career development? And so looking ahead, in the spirit of kapalekaua, or targeting, we see industry mixers along with info sessions replacing the traditional career fair, which is awkward and does not meet our student or employer needs. Another way that we've been able to turn a challenge into an opportunity is by letting students, another great opportunity that lies ahead for us is becoming part of the curriculum. More than half of our student respondents have said that career development resources would be beneficial as part of a class. And then the guaranteed internships and experiential learning opportunities. Some of the examples that Mike had just shared regarding the value of experiential learning is actually part of a university initiative. Guaranteed internships and learning opportunities is another way for us to guarantee touch points for students, ensure our resources are being utilized, and increase student engagement with our department. So, pau hana Q&A. Real briefly, guys, pau in Hawaiian means finished or done, and hana means work. So now that we're done going through all the work, we are opening it up to Q&A. And we already did present you folks with a couple of questions. If you guys want to share those responses, that's totally fine. If you have your own questions, then please, by all means. Mahalo.
Just a quick reminder to put your questions into the chat functionality in WebEx and send them to all panelists when you click send. Thanks.
What's the name of guarantee?
Okay, so I think we just saw a question about what do you mean by guaranteed internships. So what we mean by that is that if a student comes to our department and wants to make sure that they can do either an internship or some form of experiential learning, we have a process set up to do that. What we'll do is make sure that we have the student prepared for that. So they've got to meet some benchmarks in order to receive that. That means they've got to have an employer-ready resume. They either need to attend a mock interview workshop or meet with us for a mock interview. And then what we do is we provide them with a list of up to 3 or 4 employer sites that they can select from where they can interview. So they still have to earn this in a sense of making sure they do the steps, but we'll guarantee that they'll have a site in which they can do an internship. Or if it's not an internship that they want to do, if they want to do research, they're a marine science major, we will make sure that we're connecting them with their program chairs so that they're able to do some research beside their professors. I hope that answers the question. But I'm not seeing those questions, by the way, Ryan, so hopefully we can present them. We saw it real quickly, but I'm not seeing any more at this point.
Oh yeah, if you open up the chat box, it may not be open in your WebEx. You should be able to see them, but I can moderate a few of them for you. There's one other question that came in earlier about interesting that you stopped hosting career fairs, and wanted to know how many employer info sessions did you host instead, and did you engage as many employers as you would with a typical career fair? And then 3-part question, was it much more work for your team to do the info sessions versus career fairs?
I don't really think it was more work per se. We always did individual information sessions. And if anything, the career fairs were probably, just because the scale of them, they may have been a little bit more work, but we certainly did less information sessions when we were doing career fairs. And so, yeah, there was a lot of work the day of the event. Now we're just spreading that work out through a term, and we're trying, I don't know if I can tell you exactly that, yes, we have 40 employers that were in a career fair, and we've had 40 in a term. We're probably closer to about 28 to 30 employers each term. But we're, a lot of times what we're doing now is going back to learning to say no to the employers. At career fairs, you folks may be familiar with a lot of the military recruiters wanting to come on campus. That a lot of our students, that's not what they're looking for when they get out. I mean, granted, some, but very few. And there's a number of other kind of standard folks that end up being at a career fair, and you don't see much traffic at their table. So they're not the ones that are going to end up in our employer information session. And when we started thinking about ending the career fairs, it was interesting because we went to the MPACE annual conference back in December 2017 in Seattle, and it was neat to hear that there were some local universities that were in Washington that did a presentation on the topic of Are Career Fairs Dead? They're much larger schools than we are, and they were struggling with the same kind of student participation. So that helped us reinforce our decision to gravitate more towards information sessions. And really, if you think about the information session, an employer is getting up and giving a preview of who they are, what their opportunities are, and now students have talking points. They're also not having to sit there and do this awkward engagement across a table. They're able to sit in a familiar seat of a classroom and then have enough information from the employer presentation to ask some really articulate and precise questions. Hope that answers that.
Awesome, yeah. Can you see the questions now, or do you want me to keep reading them?
Yeah, we can. Okay, so Should we be hearing anything? Not okay. No, we've got audio.
Can I say real quick, Samantha, Stanley, thank you. We offer students job shadow opportunities, and they seem to enjoy them. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
answering one of our questions.
Samantha, back in the day, because I've been here for quite a long time at HBU, we did actually offer job shadow opportunities, but it was on a smaller scale, and it was only within a specific major. But it is something that I think maybe we should perhaps revisit. So thank you so much for your comment.
I'll do Beverly.
Yeah.
Beverly, I see your question about how did you figure out the best time to host events. I love that question. We've done it all. I mean, we've done morning ones, we've done mid-lunchtime ones, and I think we finally found the sweet spot. Because we're primarily, most of our activity is at the urban campus, and in a short time, the rural campus that we mentioned, Hawaii Low, will be joining us downtown, and the university all be downtown. And considering that, we got a lot of commuters, and so they're going to want to get out of here before rush hour begins, and so that starts around 4:30 in the afternoon. Most of the students are still in classes really from 10 until about 2 or 3. And so what we've been doing is targeting somewhere between that 3 to 4 time frame where students can still get out of here soon enough to beat traffic, but they also haven't left for the day. They've just got, most of them are no longer in classes. So we find that that's becoming the sweet spot, but sometimes, you also have to work with the employer's schedule. So we do have times where we've got to accommodate what their times are too. Do you have numbers data to show these initiatives have been effective? I can't sure.
We will be following up with that.
Yeah, one thing I would say is that where we see the more effectiveness is from the, and I don't have the numbers in front of us, but I know that the responses from employers when they've been in career fairs versus information sessions. We do have some of that in survey formats, but we don't have those in front of us. But the responses to participating in a career fair versus an employer information session has been significantly higher for employers in particular. We always have the surveys for students, and the survey responses to students on employer information sessions has always been in the 8, 9, 10 range on a scale of 1 to 10.
I'll take Jake's one. So Jake, you asked, how did the diversity of your student body play into the challenges or opportunities your office faced? Basically what that meant is that we really needed to, we couldn't just create a homogeneous type of workshop or programming. We needed to create many different programs, many different formats, many different situations and scenarios, even different locations to meet the needs of our students. Again, we have students from 50 states, from 30 different countries. So what we had to do was we needed to be flexible. Our programming and services had to be flexible to meet the needs of our students.
Does that sort of answer?
Sorry, I hope that kind of answers your question. So there's really no one-size-fits-all approach.
Okay, so again, and what methods have you found effective to advertise/market your events, internships, and services? So it really is dependent. Again, this kind of goes back to what Mike is saying about learning to say no. It's not saying no, oh, we're not going to do it. We're going to remove our responsibility of helping, our employers engage with students. It's just re-strategizing that. So when it comes to like advertising, marketing, and pushing, information regarding events and internships, it's choosing a certain format for certain employers. Something that doesn't necessarily capture our student audience. It might, we offer them handshake first, right? Typically, all of our employees will start at handshake, and if I'm in a conversation with an employer where it sounds like, okay, this matches that sort of convenient to campus, right? It's a part-time job that pays pretty good, and it's flexible schedule for our students. Then I will go ahead, take that information, and create a blurb and send it out via the our pipeline email blast, right? Which basically hits all students who have an HPU email address. And so that's a quick way, and it's always helpful too to have a direct contact, right? That way students can, at their own time, on their own schedule, go ahead and apply for those positions. So that helps. We also have digital e-screens on campus. They're a little less effective. However, anytime we have an opportunity to keep, I guess, the memory, right, the idea, the concept, just keep it fresh in their minds is always an opportunity. So we take advantage of the digital e-screens, and then furthermore, we've got Instagram, social media. We definitely use social media, although I feel that our university email blasts are more effective. So it really depends on what the opportunity is, and or what the organization is. As we all know, I guess branding, right? Affiliation, name affiliation is pretty important today in what students are looking for. I hope that helps.
Lori, I look at your question about, basically the lost revenue in not doing a career fair. Yeah, that worried us. But you know what? I'd rather be poor in delivering programming that's being utilized. I'd rather find a way for us to make sure that students are leveraging the Career Center and the resources offered through our department to make sure that we've got enough money to buy some supplies. I mean, yeah, we're lean. I mean, we are really lean in our operations, and you can imagine when we gave you that graphic of the declining enrollment. So employers do not have to pay to come to our workshops. I think long term, as we start to get more and more participation in some of the events that we do, we may look at putting a fee to that, but right now we don't want to scare away employers.
Can I build off of that answer?
Sure.
I'm sorry to jump in. And I think it goes back to sort of our cultural values here in Hawaii, right? Yeah. While we might not get that sort of monetary revenue, because we're building these stronger relationships and really providing hospitality and aloha, we're wealthy in other areas in terms of our relationship, so they'll keep coming back. So for right now, we're kind of just operating in that model until we can gain more traction, perhaps.
Are we self-funded or university funded? We are university funded. The only self-funding that we do have is through some of our assessment testing, and we really just recoup the cost of those vouchers for the assessments. We had some self-funding that came through, as we mentioned earlier, the career fairs. Desiree, the session is regarding diversity. Where's the diversity in your visual aids and graphics? It's really about how to meet the needs of diversity. It's not about a diverse university. We just wanted you to see the diversity in the sense of where our students come from. We've got about a third of our population is local here, and then we've got about 2/3 of it coming from the mainland, and when I say the mainland, the other U.S. states and abroad. And so our presentation isn't so much on diversity, it's on how to meet the very diverse needs of students. A student that's going to go back to, say, Atlanta is not going to necessarily need our help with finding work after they graduate, but needs our help a lot more when that individual's here because they're realizing the cost of living is much higher while they're in Hawaii than back home. So that, I hope, answers that question. Because it's about how meeting the needs of a diverse student population. I hope we've answered all the questions so far. If there's any more, we're happy to do so.
Sorry, I just want to add one more thing. Oh, sorry, Ryan. Just wanted to add one more thing. And one thing about us, I guess the bigger point that we're trying to get across is that in trying to meet the diverse needs of students is trying to have like this very flexible foundation or infrastructure and being able to move or adapt to the needs of the students, because what we're finding out is that the needs and changes are coming so quickly. It can change from one semester to the next or from one academic year to the next. So it's being able to really identify those diverse needs and being able to move where those needs are. Sorry, thank you, Ryan.
No problem, thank you. There's a few more questions that I think were sent just to me, so I will read them off to you really quickly. We've got one about first-gen students. So have you created any programming for first-generation students? And do you know what is the percentage of your student body that is first-generation students?
I don't think we know the percentage of first-gen, but we have started to do some programming for it. I'll give you an example of one that I think it's university-wide. It's not programming from our department, but it's the Hanai program. Hanai in Hawaii is like adoptive. And so sometimes children are raised by an adoptive family It's not that they're put up for adoption, but they're really raised by an auntie or a family member or even sometimes friends. And so Hanai are like a second set of parents other than your biological ones. And we have a Hanai program. We assign every freshman student a Hanai, one of the staff or faculty that volunteers for this program, to really help us. It really is targeting first-gen students that find themselves struggling because we have some unique challenges in just our geographic location. You know, the students can't just hop on a Greyhound and go home for Thanksgiving. When they come here, they may be here until the summer, and sometimes they even stay over the summer. And so it is a long way from home. And so if we can provide them a sense of I guess, ohana or family while they're here through the Hanai program, it's one way that we can help with them. So Hanais are asked to be able to make themselves available over the holidays for dinners, also to be able to show them their culture and the values and the experience of being in Hawaii. And we find that helps to bring them home. I don't know if Ryan or Kelly has anything.
Yeah, I served as a Hanai mentor, so I had, I believe, about 20 students from different parts of the West Coast, specifically from California, Oregon, as well as Washington State. And I served as like a liaison. If they needed help trying to kind of integrate themselves into Hawaiian culture or society, I can help them navigate the bureaucracy sometimes. You know, it's good to have someone here working at the institution. If, hey, I need to find a part-time job, or how do I find this particular location, or I have this type of, questions regarding financial aid, who do I go to? I can kind of act as like that second pair of hands for them. And that really helps with first-gen students.
I also want to actually contribute to this is when I mentioned looking ahead, I think a really big opportunity for first year and first gen students will be when we are embedded into the curriculum, as we can serve as a foundational course, right? Whether it's CLA or, maybe a fundamental business course. I see us, really impacting life skills, right? Because that's kind of what we are educating students on, is a multitude of life skills. Do you have any further questions that people sent you, Ryan?
Yeah, very interesting. Yes, there's a few more, and it looks like we've got like 5 minutes left. So another two-part question. What language messaging do you use to help students see the value of career development? And what methods have you found effective to advertise or market your events, internships, and services?
Oh. So I guess really that's interesting, the language of it. I would actually change my response a little bit to it's our presence. It's not so much our language. So we try to make sure that we are at events that maybe other staff departments aren't at. So one example is Club Carnival. So a lot of the clubs that have are promoting their organization, the registered student organization, and trying to solicit new members. It's a fair, it's a real fun environment. There's lots of food, there's a lot of energy. Well, we get a table, and we try to promote ourselves there. And so the language is more in just interacting with the students so that they can understand who we are. I mean, the language, if you wanted to know specifically, it's kind of like when I put out my weekly announcements, Ryan and Kelly forward to me all these great opportunities and internships, and so it'll be a quick, bold heading of, Hawaiian Electric Company seeking part-time or seeking intern, and then in parentheses, paid or unpaid. Then it's a short description, and when I say short, about 3, maybe 4 sentences, and then who is it geared towards? Is it geared towards the STEM majors? And so we'll say majors, all in bold, and which ones it's geared for. Then it's what's the application deadline? Here's the link to apply. This is actually something that I think we're seeing really stick, because a lot of students, when we ask them, how did you find out about this opportunity? They say, oh, that weekly message that you put out. And so we try to do it real quick, like where you don't need to scroll down, and if you do, it's not very far, scrolling down in that message so that you can see, these key things, as Ryan said, hot opportunities. That's usually what we're doing is using the weekly announcements for that.
Now, in terms of the methods of communication and how to advertise our events and programming, I think it really depends on the type of event or programming that we're offering, as well as the type of job or internship that's available. Obviously, something as like the FBI or CIA, that's something that's going to be university-wide, so it's not going to be limited by major. If we have something that's specific to maybe STEM or marine science, we're going to try to target communication specifically towards those majors, maybe specifically towards that specific group, juniors or seniors or grad students. So it's really trying to pair our messaging and communications with the employer and the opportunity, and how it aligns is, can we get the biggest bang for our buck here? How is the best way we can align with the resource to match the need?
So that really translates to like markety. It's kind of very markety, right? We make it short, sweet, to the point. But really, too, though, the messaging, and this is part of that innovative, encouraging employers to be innovative, right? They need to sometimes provide us a background, like a job description or whatever it might be, that speaks to the current times, right? And a lot of students want to be inspired. They want to feel that their role is useful, that it's important. And so it's sometimes up to the employers and us to figure out how we can actually make it sound enticing for students, right? Why would I want to go if it's something that I'm not passionate about? And so sometimes we have to create that for them.
Awesome, thanks. We've got two more questions if we can squeeze them in. One is about your experiential learning opportunities, and just simply, aside from your internships, what other experiential learning opportunities do you offer?
I would say it's not so much us offering in our Career Center, but there's a really awesome thing that I learned more about as we tried to push this whole initiative that started with the university president about the guaranteed internships and experiential learning. So then we need to be the data story of all of what's happening. And so when I reached out to college deans and program chairs and said, hey, here's a spreadsheet, here's the kind of content that we need you to fill out, because a lot of times the experiential learning is happening, but we're not aware of it. And so we need to make sure that what we're doing is tracking it. And what I learned in the College of Computational Natural Sciences is that we've got so many natural science and marine science majors that are doing awesome research right beside their professors. And when their professors are releasing their papers and actually getting published work, our students are listed as part of the contributors to this research. That's really a great example of the kind of stuff that happens outside of really our forte. It's just that we need to be the collection of all this information. Other examples of where this is happening is, we have students that participate in some conferences where they're actually, Climb High is a program that encourages students in high school to look at careers in the hospitality and tourism industry. Well, our hospitality and tourism majors are actually co-facilitating and hosting this event, and they're learning what it's like to be an event coordinator, which is a path that they might do. So they're much more out there in the community. You can imagine Hawaii, we're very heavy on tourism, and so our students in that program get some hands-on experience in that. So that's some of that experiential learning. I tried to give you two examples that are, maybe things that you wouldn't think of, but are actually, really important stuff, because these, again, end up on resumes and cover letters.
Yeah. One thing I would add lastly, Ryan, is just that what we're doing is there's all these opportunities with experiential learning, and it's all about trying to identify them and leveraging them towards student career development needs. There's so much information, there's so much tools and resources that you can get that you may not think of it as being career development worthy, but these are things that students can take and extract those information and put it onto a resume, and that they can use during an interview process. So it's all about identifying all these existing resources and leveraging them towards future use.
So if I can reflect real quick back on the MPACE conference out at Disneyland in December, one of the major themes that ran through all the presentations was the challenge and difficulty of working with faculty, right? Everybody kind of chuckles and laughs and scoffs at that. And so going back to challenges equals opportunity, if that is our biggest challenge, then that also is our biggest opportunity, is utilizing the existing university partnerships that we have to build credibility and value to essentially build new relationships within the university. And that will require a lot of fine-tuning as it's a future initiative, right? But it ties back into Ryan's bit on partnerships as well.
Awesome, thanks. Real quick, maybe we can squeeze in this last question. Somebody's just curious, how frequently are you running career development programming and workshops in the classroom?
In the classroom, we're not doing a whole lot of that in the classroom. I'd say it's probably once every about maybe 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's usually by invitation, but when we send out our weekly announcements, yes, it goes to students, but it also goes out through the faculty assembly. And what we say in that message is, don't forget, we're a resource to you. And so if you'd like us to bring an employer in, if you'd like to have us come in and do a workshop on a particular topic that you think is targeted specifically for students in your programs, we're happy to do that. So I'd say, again, it's probably every 2 to 3 weeks that we do that. And then, of course, we offer our standard programming that we just open up for all students, and we do probably about 6 to 10 a term. We did a lot last term, but they weren't heavily attended, so we're kind of scaling them back. We do them at the beginning and towards the end of the term.
Awesome. Well, we are 1 minute over. Thank you so much, Michael, Kelly, and Ryan from Hawaii Pacific, and big thank you to Kelly from MPACE. Don't forget to stop by our booth at NACE this summer. We'll be there, or maybe we'll see some of you at our Connections event in May as well. Thanks again.